trustworthy do you think the mainstream news media is? On a scale from 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, how much do you trust the mainstream news media?
I'm going to go a big 0.
2, mostly.
As a whole, probably 2.
Probably is 5 or 6.
I was going to say a 5.
Probably 7.
I would say 1 at the most.
-2.
Maybe a 5 to 6.
I'd say maybe like a 5.
6 on a good day. I would have to say maybe 8, 9.
Probably about a 3.
3.
3.
3.
8.
6 or a 7.
A 7.
7 or 8. I work in media, so
10.
Can you expand on why you gave that rating or didn't give a higher or lower rating?
I just think that the media, like, there's so many skewed responses and people just kind of like jump onto each other, and it's very hard to find like actual facts through it.
I just don't trust everything I see in the media.
You can't really be too sure of how true it is. A lot of things they just put out there just to create a sense of an opinion, I want to say. A lot of things aren't really factual.
Because they constantly lie and they omit important information about everything mostly, so
You could see things and watch it for yourself and then turn on the news and then hear their take on it or their headlines on it, which is a complete 180 from what you just watched.
My experience with the media, when I've actually known the story that's on the news doesn't quite match the same reality of what happened.
People look at the headlines or will listen to those pundits, and then that's their whole belief system. People don't think for themselves, and they just believe whatever the person on TV is telling them.
I think there's an agenda through most of the media to be more liberal, slight the news more that way than the actual truth.
I don't trust Fox News, let me put it that way, at all. Right-wing, pro-Trump propaganda.
You know, there's truth in everything, I believe, but there's two sides to every story, and I feel like a lot of stories are one-sided.
They have their whole agenda. They literally just want to show you what they want, keep you blind to the rest of it, and keep you voting the way they want you to vote.
I mean, like, everything has a lot of propaganda mixed into it. Like, just anytime you're watching anything. So you have to take everything with, like, a big
Grain of salt.
Yeah, like, I would say a teaspoon of but put a sprinkle in there. Really dash that baby in there.
Well, I believe that everyone is inherently a bit biased, so you cannot ever have completely objective news. But I do believe that most journalists don't have an agenda.
I don't think the mainstream media is perfect, but I also don't think it's monolithic. But generally, I think they try to be accurate and not have too much spin on the ball. And when there is some spin, you can usually figure it out.
They have generally been very good at trying to be objective, but the way some of the reporters and editors work, they let their bias leak in when they do reporting. Sometimes they don't get all the facts, and sometimes they state the facts in a way they think is appropriate, but it might not be.
Where do you get your news most of the time?
Most of the time I get it from CNN, Politico, New York Times, Washington Post.
NPR and BBC, those are my two that I kind of trust.
I trust Newsmax the most.
Social media.
Daily Wire, number 1.
Washington Post, New York Times, some CNN.
I like to read The Economist, The Financial Times, The New York Times.
The New York Times and the Washington Post.
BBC, I go to NBC News, ABC Nightly News, and CNN. I try to stay away from Fox. I don't know why.
I'm more of like a social media guy, so like Twitter, Instagram. I don't really ever watch the news, but I trust those more than the news, I guess.
I'm a fan of Tucker Carlson.
I probably would trust like maybe NPR and BBC the most. As far as like mainstream media outlets, I would trust Fox the least, of course.
Do you think over the course of your lifetime, the mainstream media has become more trustworthy or less trustworthy?
Yeah, I mean, probably less.
Less.
Okay, well, less, yeah.
Moderately less trustworthy. Yeah.
I think we've seen it turn less trustworthy. I think the 2016 election was a big deal. You started to see all the fake news from both sides, and I think since that brought that all to light, more and more people are questioning the truth of both sides' information.
There's not many out there that you can trust, but I definitely don't trust the left-wing leading media. And at the same time, the right-wing stuff too. They have their whole stance on things. So
With Fox News and television ramping up and all that and internet, it's less trustworthy.
Throughout my lifetime, I think it's become gradually less and less trustworthy. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Money, capitalism.
I think it's become more of a business, and so they're looking for clicks, looking for audience, and in trying to attract that audience, they end up putting more spin on the ball.
I think it's all about views and
People are trying to get clicks nowadays, and
They're trying to tell a good story. They want to keep an audience. They're trying to like really sell you a narrative.
We've gotten into this mentality of people being us against them, and even though some of us don't really think that, we feel we have to combat that. And I think that leaks into reporters reporting. They feel that there's an enemy out there that they have to address.
We've become more polarized, and I think if you want to exert a certain type of, I wouldn't say political influence, but you want to show which side of history you're on, that directly links to media becoming less trustworthy. And I just think that it didn't used to be that way.
Back in the day, you used to watch the news with your folks, and that would be what was giving you your idea of the world, and we all trusted it. And it doesn't feel that way anymore.
Americans are struggling in general. In every aspect, we're struggling, and it doesn't feel like the government is on our side. So with that, I think the media is a platform that they use to kind of get across their narrative.
If you watch the news, you're misinformed. If you don't watch the news, you're not informed. So it's a double-edged sword. Like, what do you do?
I think they're all biased. They're all biased as hell. Yeah, that's why I don't watch it.